You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well. Another marvelous Tuesday night here, hanging out with the boys. Off to a fresh 3-0 start here in the home league to start the year, so I'm kind of feeling pretty good about myself, and navigating injury-topia, and it's not even bye week season yet.
Right.
God, it has been just brutal for injuries so far here through 3 weeks. Took an L this week in the home league. However, in my other 2 leagues, my high school league and my work league, where I was previously winless, came along with some W's this week. So overall, of the 3 leagues of note in my life, I did okay. 2 out of 3. I believe it was the great poet laureate Meatloaf who said 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and that is what I'm living by this week.
Philosophizing here this late Tuesday night. I like it.
Doing what I can.
Fair enough. So Kevin and I ended up in going head to head in 4 different leagues here. And wouldn't you know it, neither one of us claimed any bragging rights this early in the season, because we literally split that about down the middle. Went 2-2 in the head to heads that we had this week. So
Little bittersweet. One was close. Really, only one was close out of the 4, right?
Yeah, and the rest of them were kind of lopsided there.
Yeah, a little lopsided on us. So
I gotta tell you what's been kind of fun about, and maybe just like it speaks to kind of the craziness of this season so far in the home league. Obviously, we have our scoring on steroids that we do, but we've had a different high score each of the first 3 weeks. Now, Kevin, you were high score week 1, begrudgingly, when my team had to go up against you. And I was high score in week 2. Derek, you were second highest score in week 2. In week 3, Andy, shout out to Andy, he was high score, and then Kevin and Derek were right there. I did not have a good week. I just couple bad plays, missed guy who was out, taking up a roster spot, took a 0 there. It was just a bad week overall. Should have played Kyron over Rashad White. Mike Evans got shut down by Denver. Denver looked like a football team somehow, some way. That was surprising. Actually, I think probably the storyline of the weekend was like the rookies finally, right? Like the rookies finally figured it out. Those rookie quarterbacks. We saw impressive on Monday night from Jaden Daniels with Washington. We saw impressive Caleb Williams threw the ball, like 50 some odd times or whatever it was in Chicago. Chicago won, right? I'm not crazy thinking that. And then we saw Bo Nix with the Broncos pull off a shocker. I'll say it was a shocker to me. So really, it was the rookie quarterbacks that kind of stepped up and figured it out. Oh, Chicago lost, excuse me. But Caleb Williams went 33 of 52 for 363 and 2 tutties. You'll take that as a fantasy owner. So, there were really good games by guys that were unexpected, and really, really poor games by guys that you kind of hoped would do well. I'll throw this question out there, and we can discuss it for a brief minute, and then we'll get on with the show. But of the teams that are 3-0 right now, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 teams that are 3-0. It's the Bills, the Seahawks, the Steelers, and the Vikings. Oh, excuse me, and the Chiefs. Yeah. So Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Vikings. Is that it? Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Vikings, Seahawks. 5 teams. Of those 5 teams, who are you the most confident in to make a deep run in the playoffs? Take the Chiefs out of it; they don't count.
That was easy of an answer with
Take the Chiefs out of it; they don't count. Who do you like the best out of that? And then I'll flip it on you with the 0-3 teams. Which of those teams do you think has the best chance at turning it around? So let's start with the 3-0 teams. Who you like the most out of those 3-0 teams, and maybe who's the biggest pretender out of those 3-0 teams too.
Well, the biggest pretenders, the Steelers.
I
would agree with that.
The defense is absolutely keeping them in games. They've had some timely poor possessions from the other team. Now, credit to them. They're 3-0. You're right. You're as good as your record says you are. So they are undefeated football team. But their gauntlet down the stretch gets absolutely filthy for the back half of the season. So the Steelers have a long way to go. So for them to bankroll these wins here early in the season is an absolute must-have for them once we get into weeks 10 and later, because their last 7-8 weeks is brutal.
Right. Well, to put that in perspective for you too, right? Like the defense playing out of this world kind of good there. The Broncos have scored more points this season than the Steelers have, to put that in perspective, right? And the Broncos offense has been catastrophically bad outside of this last week, right? Like, so if that doesn't kind of put that into frame and perspective for you, that I don't know what else would.
Fields is just managing the game, right? He's not losing them games, obviously, with them being 3-0, but he's not putting them in a bad spot.
Right.
He's not turning the ball over. Like, he's not trying to play outside of himself. They're playing to the strength of their defense. So kudos to Justin Fields for being able to do that. Now, they need a little bit more oomph out of the offense as the season goes on. You need Najee and George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth and company to kind of take one more step up to be able to put some points up on the board. But realistically, the Steelers are that team very much in line with the Broncos. If you can consistently get to like 23 points a game, which is not a ton in today's NFL, right? Everything's geared towards the offense. So if you can get to 23 points a game, both those teams are going to win a ton of football games because their defenses are that good. The Jets are very much the same way. You don't need Aaron Rodgers to play as good as he did in 2017. You need Aaron Rodgers to get, like they talked about on Thursday night, a 2-score lead. You need 10 to 14 points and then just let the defense feast. And the Jets are going to be just fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are the biggest pretender. I think the Seahawks have gotten really good. I don't want to say fortunate breaks, but like, man, it seems like they're catching teams right at the right time, right? So like the Seahawks get Denver with a rookie quarterback trying to figure it out. They get the Patriots with whatever their quarterback situation is before they kind of insert their quarterback of the future. Eke out 1-score wins in both of those games, I might add. And then they get Miami with their quarterback situation being unsettled. So, like, they'll finally get to play an established starter, not somebody who's either a rookie or, basically a fill-in or a bridge quarterback or an injury replacement here in week 4 when they go to Detroit on Monday night. So while Seattle is impressive with their 3-0, like, is that a legit 3-0 or are they just being able to take advantage of, other teams' misfortunes? That's kind of the thing that I'll be keeping an eye on. Okay. So flip side, the Bengals, the Jaguars, and the Titans are all 0-3. Which I don't know that I would have said that going into this season, that at least 2 of those teams I figured would be faring much better for the first 3 weeks. What then do any of these three teams go winless? It's an easy yes or no question.
No.
No.
Right. It's too easy to pick off a team on any given Sunday, hence the term. But which of these teams do you think has the best bet of turning it around and making it to the playoffs?
I mean, I would argue that the Bengals would be it, just with that offensive firepower that they've got, and if they can figure out some things on defense, that they can put them in the mix real quick. Tennessee and Jacksonville both, they have looked anemic on the offensive side of the ball and allowing lots of points on the defensive side of the ball. So it's not like it's a kind of a simple fix there. Whereas with the Bengals, they're at least in one possession games in each one of those matchups there. But so I would lean on Cincinnati at that point.
I'm going to lean on Tennessee.
Mm.
And kind of, yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking you were going to do, or at least one of the two of you. And here's why. Cincinnati's tough because that division is stout.
Yeah.
Right? Like Cleveland, okay, they've had their ups and downs, but that defense in general is still pretty good. They're just not quite healthy all the way there yet. They're getting there. But the Ravens, the Ravens are a toenail away from being 3-0. The Steelers are 3-0, and traditionally those are nasty, grueling matches between all three round robin teams there in the AFC North. So I think the Bengals might be in the biggest jeopardy, only because the AFC South, yes, you have Houston, but Houston's still learning how to win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We wanted to crown Houston after 2 weeks, and then they went up to Minnesota, and kudos to Minnesota, like beating a Niners team, albeit a little banged up, but you beat the players in front of you. So absolutely. And then following that up with a really good victory against an up and coming Houston team, which we all picked to win that division preseason. But I think it's Tennessee. I think they have a better defense than the Bengals or the Jaguars, and they have better offensive weaponry top to bottom on that Titans team than what you have in Jacksonville. And because you're playing in a lesser division, that instantly says, okay, you can pick up a couple of cheapies, right? Like the Colts are not blowing anybody away. They're still struggling along with Richardson. Titans and Jags need to play each other twice. So if one of those two teams is able to sweep the other and then just split with the rest of the division, right? There's 4 wins. So you put them at 4-5, right? They're 0-3. They split the division or win the 2 games, split the division. That puts them at 4-5 right now. That's not a bad spot to be in, right? Most teams, right, would say that 4-5 halfway through the season, we can build upon this. We're not out of it. We just got to tweak some things and finish strong. If you're sitting in that position, Tennessee's there, in my opinion. But I like the offensive weapons they have. Ridley's playing well. D-Hop's only going to get healthier. And then Tony Pollard's looking much like the Tony Pollard we thought we were going to get last year.
I like
making Spears not irrelevant, but a clear number 2 option here at the moment.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there, Kevin, about Tennessee being that team, but like the same case I think could be made for Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville just got the tires beat off of them on Monday night here. That was just an absolute you-know-what kicking. But I do think though that Jacksonville, looking at what they've done, they lost close games, so they're not getting totally blown out. The most recent game, notwithstanding, but they've lost close games. They have a chance here. Their next 2 games are at Houston and home against the Colts. You win those 2 games, and all of a sudden you're kind of in the catbird seat of the division, right? Like you haven't lost any other division games. So like that's you have a good 2 weeks here. You just got your butts handed to you, and you turn it around and have a hard week of practice. You turn it around, you win one, you rattle off another one, and all of a sudden you're leading the division at, with the first 2 wins in the division. So I think that what Kevin said about the Titans having an easier path, the same can be said about Jacksonville. Although I will agree with Kevin that I think if I could have the quarterback in Jacksonville, although again he did not play his best on Monday night, if I could have the quarterback in Jacksonville in Tennessee, I would feel a lot better. But man, Will Levis makes it hard to be convinced that Tennessee is going to be good.
Oh,
he makes it hard.
Will Levis makes it hard to believe that the Titans aren't going to be up, late in the fourth quarter, and he's not going to turn the ball and cost the game, right?
Yeah.
And to the Trevor Lawrence point, the fact that he is about that much further ahead in passing percentage this season than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's not good.
Leaves a lot of big pauses for me there too.
We have seen some questionable quarterback play to start this season, right? We have seen some questionable quarterback play, and I don't know what that is stemming from. If it's defenses are getting better, or like they're just being able to confuse these quarterbacks. But it has just been kind of some interesting head scratching moments when it comes to some of the quarterback performances we've seen so far.
Although you noticed that about week 3, all of a sudden that the offenses seemed to start waking up and started going through, and it does make you wonder, right? How many of these teams sat so many of the folks during the preseason. If we aren't starting to see that show up here in weeks 1 and 2 and 3, and all of a sudden, the first 3 weeks of the season are really almost the preseason. I don't know what that kind of looks like, right? And does make you wonder what that how that could be affecting that, right? Like so many of these guys not playing in that and just playing in the controlled scrimmages and some of that during the
joint practices.
Yep. So I do wonder how much of that is coming into play there as well, right? Because you've got so many of these quarterbacks that have been so good for so long, and passing percentages well north of 60%. Like there's a lot of guys out here struggling to get to 60% at this point. So there's certainly something to that. And the offenses have not all, that's not fair to say, but the offenses as a whole have looked very anemic through the first few weeks. And really this week here in week 3 was where we started to see some of that turnaround, and we started seeing some of the things that maybe we expected to see. So alrighty, we do have some questions and some comments coming in here. Any other thoughts that we want to rock and roll, or we want to start hitting up some questions?
Thanks for entertaining my thought games there.
Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and hit up the chat here. We got Terry over on YouTube. Yo, thoughts on Cordell Patterson? If this was 2021, I'm all in. The fact that we are in 2024, I'm not so much.
I'm not there just yet. I mean, what helped him last week was the receptions out of the backfield, but he's still, he only played 34% of snaps last week. So, maybe if you're hurting at running back and you need the stash, but Terry, your rosters, you don't need him. Like, unless there's a roster that you haven't shown us where you're hurting at running back, like I don't think you need to be there. I'd rather look at like a Bucky Patterson or Braylon Allen or Bucky Irving, or Braylon Allen or Tyler Batty from the Broncos and stash that, not Cordell Patterson.
Right. Yeah, I could see the potential increase in snaps with some of the reports coming in on Jaylen Warren and what that kind of looks like. But again, right, like there's other options that Kevin just alluded to that I'd rather go with. Any other thoughts on this one? All righty. Terrence over on YouTube. Flex question, JMO, Cooper, Thomas Jr.
JMO's your ceiling play. Cooper's going to be far more consistent in their matchup against the Raiders. I really like for him this week. So overall, I'm probably leaning Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Seattle's defense is pretty good. We'll see if it travels to Detroit, but I think I like Amari Cooper going up against the Raiders more.
Call it unanimous. I'm going the Amari Cooper route as well. Vanasty, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right or not, but Vanasty over on Twitch, David Montgomery for Kyron. Much as I love Monty, I'd still lean the Kyron side on this one.
I have both of those dudes, and I'd rather play Kyron over Monty. Look, Kyron's the show right now in LA, right? Like until and you know, when Puka comes back and Cooper Kupp comes back and they get Higbee healthy, like that LA offense is going to look a little different. But man, you can ride this Kyron wave for a while. I think you can ride the Kyron wave for more than you can ride the Monty wave, because eventually Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, displaces some of Monty's points.
I don't think it does, but
I don't think so. And that's hold on. I'm looking at something.
I'm taking the Kyron route. And so Monty, absolutely love this, right? And like I've been well on the record as far as my, how much I think Monty is way undervalued, right? But I'm leaning the Kyron Williams side because there are very few running backs out there that receive 80+% of the snap share, right? And so Kyron this season, 91% week 1, 79% week 2, 90% week 3. Monty has barely gotten above 50% in any game this season when it comes to the snap share, right? Now, there is something to be said on this one from the standpoint that Monty gets the goal line work, much more consistent offense with a higher power offense in Detroit with the Monty side of things, and getting about 50% of the work there, has him as a top 10 back, but Kyron getting that, 90% of the work is a top 3 back. And so that's where it kind of comes down to me for that one.
Yeah, it is Kyron, but I have it a lot closer. The Rams are so beat up. And it's not just the receiving corps, it's their offensive line too.
Yes.
Right. So being on the field for 90% is wonderful in this case, but they're not getting a great push. Like he had an amazing game. And really I was shocked by the final score of this game. It was not the game I was keeping an eye on Sunday afternoon. And so I kind of had it in the background. It's like, okay, Niners are winning. Okay, Rams scored. They made it kind of close. And I flipped away, and I don't know. I got distracted doing something. I don't even remember what it was. And I came back and looked at it, and I looked it up. I was like, wait, like holy crap! The Niners gave that game away, and they lost. Like it was shocking. And then going back through and looking at some of the highlights and some of the film on it, like Kyron did take over, which is good. But I do worry about the offensive line there in LA. Monty had a good week on his own as well, but I think ultimately it is Kyron, like by a slim margin, like not necessarily razor thin, but I'm still leaning on the Kyron side.
Right. Well, and it's one of those two that to kind of further the point on the offensive line thing, that's part of the reason that Kyron's averaging about 3 yards an attempt, and Detroit having one of the best offensive lines in the league. Monty's over 4.5 a carry. So there is something to that as well. All right, Terrence over on YouTube, defense, special teams, Bills and Chargers rostered, Packers, Vikings, Broncos, Falcons, Titans are out there. Thoughts on this one?
I think of the teams that are available, I'll take the Titans. I'm not playing the Chargers. Packers and Vikings play each other, so those games always seem to be tight, but I think they have a tendency, they could be high scoring. Denver's got the Jets, so no. And Atlanta is. Well, I looked and then I forgot. Atlanta's playing the Saints. I'll also pass on that. So Titans would be my number one. Bills, I think, number two. The Ravens defensively aren't all that great. So, like, I know that that's not what you're asking, but I think that helps the Bills defense because they probably won't be asked to do a ton. But definitely not playing the Chargers. And I will pass on the Broncos this week.
I would drop the Chargers, pick up the Broncos, and I think I'd play the Broncos this week over the Bills. So slightly different. The Bills defense beat up on some subpar teams here the last couple weeks, so their stats are a little elevated. But outside of the Ravens, like, I'm not worried about the Bills necessarily. They're going to get Miami again. They still have New England twice. Like, they're going to play the Jets twice. I think those will be tighter games. Like, I like the way that they're set up here. And so if you're going to keep two, I'd keep the Broncos. They've been giving teams fits. They're not giving up passing yards, right? They're not giving it up. They're getting sacks this year, which they haven't done in the last couple. They're actually getting to the quarterback. And this defense is doing a good job playing to give their young rookie quarterback every possible opportunity to succeed. Yes, the Jets are going to be a tall task. So either defense, you're probably, you're not looking at, big time scoring out of either defense this week. But if you're going to keep two rostered, I don't mind keeping Broncos and Bills rostered just as good as they both can be and kind of how some things shake out. It gives you a nice pivot in between the two.
Okay. I like it. Let's go ahead and hit up the next one here. We got Keon Coleman. This one from Sotober 24 over on YouTube. Is Keon Coleman worth a bench spot?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's all relative. It depends on who you're dropping.
Right.
But, I mean, yes, I'd tell you in most formats, Keon Coleman deserves a roster spot. Like, rookie wide receiver. People felt enough of him to draft him in the mid rounds to kind of see what they were getting here with Buffalo. Buffalo still kind of finding their way offensively a little bit. We've seen, one game where it was mainly Josh Allen, one game where it was James Cook, and then this game where everybody scored, right? Everybody got a touchdown against the Jaguars. So I think Coleman's finding his way. He's not being asked to do a ton, and they're allowing him to kind of quietly develop. Like, he's the rookie wide receiver that no one's paying attention to. And I think that serves him well for the back half of the season, as he has the best quarterback out of any of these rookie wide receivers, and arguably Patrick Mahomes with Xavier Worthy. So I'll take a half step there. But other than that, like, again, Buffalo does have to throw the ball. And so at the moment, they're taking the kind of shotgun approach. Like, Curtis Samuel's getting a little bit, Shakir's getting a little bit, James Cook is getting some out of the backfield, Kincaid's getting a little bit, but not nearly what we all thought he would be getting to this point, at least. Like, I'm pretty disappointed with my Dalton Kincaid shares. And Coleman's getting himself involved as well. So I think that's only going to improve as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that, right? Typically, when you see rookie wide receivers come in, it takes them about a half of a season to really kind of find how that starts operating in the NFL level there, right? So certainly some outliers that we've seen over the last few seasons here, but traditionally those rookie wide receivers take a little bit of time there, and you start seeing them ascend comes week 8, 9, kind of going through there. But to Kevin's point, it very much depends upon what that opportunity cost of that roster spot and what that looks like, right? If that's going to be somebody else that you're putting on there, depends on who that is. If Keon Coleman's worth that roster spot over that person. Terrence, is P. Ryan now droppable with Hunt being added to the active roster? I would say P. Ryan's still the third down back, and he's better at pass pro than Kareem Hunt is.
Yeah, he has a role in the Chiefs offense. I don't know how dynamic it's going to be for fantasy purposes. I think they're going to be pretty well spread out across the running back touches, right? Steele's going to get his. We're going to see Hunt get in as he gets acclimated back to the NFL. Hunt still, or P. Ryan's going to be there for some third down, a little bit of catching, right? But I think you can find a better backup running back somewhere than Samaji.
Yeah, I would agree. Any other thoughts on this one, Alex? Okay. Cham Payne over on YouTube. What do you think of Kendre Miller? Should I stash him on IR?
No, I wouldn't. Like the way Kamara's been playing, the fact that Kendre Miller can't stay out of the hot tub, like he might have one game. Most likely it's going to be on your bench, and then his track record tells us he's going to end up nicked up and hurt again. Like Kendre is a guy that I grabbed on some best ball teams late just to kind of have some high upside, but for season long, I think I can find better options.
I have Kendre Miller on an IR spot in the home league, and I am considering. He was insurance for Alvin Kamara, and I don't. I might regret saying it, but I don't feel like I need that insurance.
Fair enough. All righty. Terry over on YouTube saying Warren is getting an MRI, so the guy in Denver is a better ad. Saying bet. Yeah, I would agree with that. Right over Cordell Patterson. All righty. Outer Horizon over on YouTube saying, yo, should I run Shakir or Singletary in the flex this week? Thanks, fellas.
I'm going to tell you Shakir, mainly because as much as the Cowboys have struggled to stop the run here the past couple weeks, I don't think the Giants' offensive line is strong enough to consistently win that battle. And as soon as Dallas gets up and is able to pin their ears back, Devin Singletary is going to become entirely irrelevant. Shakir, while he's not going to post, 150 yards on 10 catches with 2 touchdowns, like he's been consistently getting, 65 yards through the first 3 seasons. He has a couple touchdowns under his belt. So he's absolutely a guy that Josh Allen's looking for every single week.
Yeah, there's certainly something to that. And for me, it really kind of comes down to what you think Singletary's going to do, right? If Singletary's going to get 15, 16 carries in this game, I would run Singletary out there. But I think much to Kevin's point, this is going to be one of those that this game gets away from this, kind of quick, fast, and in a hurry to the point where we may only see Singletary get about 10 carries on this one. And at that point, the upside is definitely shot there. So there is a lot of that. And some of that will also come down to what you're requiring out of that flex position, right? Like if you need something with a higher ceiling, Shakir is going to be the guy with the higher ceiling. If you're requiring more of a floor play, I think Singletary gets you a safer floor.
I wasn't going to talk about it till we got to Pine and Shine, but one of these guys is on my Shine list this week, and it's Khalil Shakir because Baltimore is dead last in yards against per game through the air.
I like it. Any other thoughts on this one? All right, Sebastian over on YouTube. Should I trade Drake London, Tank Dell, Jonathan Brooks for David Montgomery and Marvin Harrison in a full point 12-person PPR redraft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Give me Monty and Marvin. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way to talk up the other side, and I'm at a loss there. So smash yes for me. Any other thoughts on that one, Alex?
Nope.
All right. Terry, over on YouTube, will Huntley be the QB this week in Miami? If not, do we consider benching Tyreek for Kirk, Ridley, Watson, or Pittman in full PPR?
Oh, woof.
Possibly
yes.
Ridley. Look, I don't know who's going to be quarterback down there in Miami. I do know that because I have Tyreek in couple of my leagues, one of my leagues, whatever it is. And it's hard to play him right now. But the real benefit, the real winner is going to be Achane owners, because I think they might run Wildcat the whole time and just have Devon Achane take every snap and see what happens. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see it as a whole series where Devon Achane is the guy getting the snap each play. So I think you do have to consider. I don't know Christian Kirk, Christian Watson, or Pittman are your guys. I think Ridley's your consideration. And I would have a hard time telling you to not do that. It's tough. That sucks because
I don't
Tyreek
mind.
It's hard to take Tyreek out of your lineup.
Yeah, I guess I don't completely hate the Ridley pivot, but I have Tyreek in a work league, and I'm not taking him out. Like I'm just finding other ways to navigate around my roster, and it's not the easiest thing. But Tyreek is such a one-touch guy, and none of the rest of these guys. Christian Watson can be, and they have their own quarterback situation there in Green Bay. So Christian Watson can be. Calvin Ridley's your floor for sure. So if you just need points, then Calvin Ridley's your guy. If you're going for upside, I would tell you if you need the upside, then it has to be Tyreek.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And I've got Tyreek in a couple of different leagues as well, and I don't know that I would take him out to put any of those other folks in there on that. I'm doing very much what Kevin was talking about there, where I am making choices at other positions there to potentially try and navigate that, because I do think that Tyreek is still in wide receiver 2 territory, whereas everybody else that we mentioned is wide receiver 3 flex territory this week. So that's how I would navigate that one. Any other thoughts on this one? All right, Jordan over on YouTube, sup, good old boys. And he had the same question as Outer Horizons. So glad we were able to get two for the same question. That's awesome. Eddie over on YouTube, sup, fellas. Question: just got Monty for Kittle and Juwan Jennings. Got Jennings off the waiver wire. Thoughts? I like it.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I think some of that depends
I don't
on kind of who else you're throwing in there at tight end, but I'm a big fan of the Monty pickup there, and got an injured guy and a wavered guy for top 10 back.
Hey, real quick before you get to your next one here, Derek. I'm seeing a lot of new names. I don't know if these are guys that you're seeing on the Friday night show, but I'm seeing a lot of new names. So what's up to everybody? Thanks for being here. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button while you're here waiting on us to answer your question. That way you know when we go live every Tuesday night, and then you can join the other two on Friday nights for your, what is it called? Start, sit, snap? What?
It's the Friday Night Lights bet, set, snap.
Bet, sit, snap. I knew that. So yeah, they go live every Friday night. But yeah, welcome to everybody to a lot of new names that I'm seeing this week.
Yeah, always fun getting to chat it up and talk to folks out there. So that's awesome. Chandler over on YouTube, start Carr or Purdy, would also pick up Steele. Someone has P. Ryan or worried with Hunt back this week. Will it just be a headache PPR?
Purdy's dealing with a little bit of an injury, isn't he?
Yes, but he also said it was no big deal. And that
I hadn't seen what the update was. I just saw that he had a designation on him.
So, Chandler, I'll tell you that between the two of those guys, when I'm looking at my rankings and I'm going through that, I've got them within a half point of each other between Carr and Purdy this week. And both of these guys are kind of that fringe QB1 for me this week. If I've got to lean one or the other, I would probably lean the Derek Carr route, just because the matchup's a little bit better against Atlanta than what we've seen. Purdy going up against San Francisco, and especially with some of the unknowns with Kittle being down, and is he going to return? Is he going to be out a little bit longer? Same thing with Debo. and just kind of some of the injury bugs that San Francisco's dealing with there. Any other thoughts on that part of the question?
No, but I have a follow up. If you go ahead, Kevin.
I was just gonna say I think I'm leaning Purdy by a hair personally, because worst case scenario, I don't think San Francisco's defense is as good as we thought they were going to be, so it's forcing them to throw the ball a bit more. And as much as Jordan Mason's been good, he has not been Alvin Kamara great here to start the season, sans last week. So I think it's going to force Purdy to air it out a bit more than what we were originally thinking.
All righty. And then as far as the would you pick up Steele? Somebody else has P. Wright in that league, or worried with the Kareem Hunt this week. Will it just be a headache? I have a feeling that backfield is going to be a headache when it comes down to season long type of thing there, right? Like, I think you're inevitably going to end up, having to, you start one of them and it's somebody else's week that week.
It's like the Patriots from many years ago, right? It was like, who's the hot hand?
Right. Yeah.
I was just like, you never know. You just never know which Patriots running back is going to get the run that week.
Right.
All right. So a follow up, Alex over on YouTube is asking Purdy or Dak Prescott this week.
I'm taking Dak to bounce back against the Giants.
So here's what makes that interesting is that Dak plays Thursday night. So you have to make this decision. Yes, Purdy's probably going to play, right? But what if he doesn't? And then you're hosed because you're not going to find that out until 11 o'clock. No, it's at 3:05, the afternoon window on Sunday.
So who do you have to play instead of Purdy if that's the decision you go?
Well, there's limited. First off, this is for Alex on YouTube. There's limited bench spots, he tells me. So picking up, there's plenty of quarterbacks available. It's just there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 6 bench spots. And he's having to deal with a Trey McBride injury that he's going to have to navigate to grab a new tight end.
So there's
you take the sure thing.
Right.
You take the sure thing.
Right. Because if not, right, if you try and play this game where you're waiting until Sunday, right, you pass on the Dak side of things. It's not dealing with an injury that has a higher powered offense. It has, a lot of these things that I see Dak as being a top 10 QB this week. To try and go for Purdy, who I have ranked lower than even at that point. And Purdy doesn't go, then what, right? Like you're picking up off the waiver wire, and then at that point, is it Dak or any of those guys? And if the answer isn't any of those guys, it's a very easy Dak.
Here's another great one again from Alex on YouTube. Tyreek Hill or Jackson Smith and Jigba this week. Right?
I still go with the Tyreek, right? From a lot of this
2 weeks ago, that's a no-brainer, right? But man,
it's Tyreek. It's closer than some of the other question we had with the Ridley, the Kirk and some of that question there. Like it's a closer one. But at that point, I'm still going with Tyreek over JSN.
Yeah, I'd co-sign that.
So, alrighty. Any other thoughts from Alex and questions from Alex over on YouTube while we're talking to Alex?
I think that's all he had.
Okay. All right. So Tober 24 over saying thanks, fellas, for that question from earlier. And then Binking over on YouTube asking, is this season long DFS? No, sure. We tend to gravitate far more towards a redraft type of format there. But if you've got some DFS questions, we'll certainly weigh in on some of those thoughts for you. Millie Mills over on YouTube saying, sup, fellas. And FBU over on YouTube asking, would you start Dak or would you start Baker this week?
Tampa at home against Philadelphia. Ooh. I think I lean Dak.
I think I'm gonna lean Baker, and the only reason is I think there's gonna be many more points scored in that game, and Philly will keep the pressure on Tampa Bay. I am not a believer in this Giants team. So if they can control and limit Malik Neighbors from going kind of bonkers like he did last week, I don't think the Giants have anything else to throw at the Cowboys. And contrary to that, I think Philly and Tampa is going to be, we could see 50 plus points out of this game pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, my initial reaction was to lean the Dak route, but the more as I think through this thing, I'm gravitating more towards the Baker side of things, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Giants and Cowboys do tend to just get into these gritted out, grimy type of games a lot of times. Whereas I do think we'll see plenty of points in Philly and Tampa, so I like it. Millie Mills over on YouTube asking whoever got a bid in for Jennings, if they're available in your league, he hopes that y'all get them. So I'd see that. X Busy over on YouTube asking, sup guys, do I trade Ayuk for Evans?
Do you want a floor or do you want high end? Because I think Evans is going to get you more high end just because his prowess in the red zone and his touchdown ability is greater than Ayuk's. If you're looking for more of a consistent output, I think Ayuk gets there. He's been on a slow start, but he'll heat up.
Yeah. Cosign. Any other thoughts on that one?
No. I have bias here. Maybe just because I'm trying to will Mike Evans into being good, and I'm not thinking clearly.
Okay. FBU saying the last time that they played, meaning the Giants and the Cowboys, Dak put up 40 both times. Well,
I'll take it. Or Alex from YouTube will take it.
There you go. So, Kevin, does that change any of the thoughts on the Baker Dak for you?
No.
Say it. Last year. Say it.
All righty. Millie Mills. So he's saying, so Kev, you feel good about Evans this week?
No, I feel way better against Philadelphia than I do him against Surtain.
Pat Surtain, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, again, Pat Surtain, if he is a top 2 cornerback in this league, 3. I mean, if we're gonna get, if we really want to start adding some folks in, but it was just a bad matchup for Evans. Surtain is long, and he's a long strider, can keep up with Evans. He's physical. He does the things that Evans typically doesn't do well against. We saw this with Lattimore. When Marshawn Lattimore was at his best, he always gave Mike Evans hell. Surtain plays the same way. He's just better. So Philly doesn't have anybody like that. Their corners are a little bit smaller. They're not quite as physical at the line. And this game, like I said, I think Tampa Bay got humbled a little bit, right? They're going to get back to it. They're going to find some things that they need to do well, and it'll open up. So I do feel better about Mike Evans this week. I am starting Evans over Tyreek in the work league I was talking to you all about. That's the pivot I made. So Evans is playing over Tyreek, and then I'm playing hell, I don't remember who my other wide receiver is, but it doesn't matter. I'm playing Evans over Tyreek in that league.
Fair enough. And to kind of add on to that as well, right? Talking about Philly's corners and their pass defense, Philadelphia is giving up the second most points to opposing fantasy wide receivers this season so far. So, that is a very, very good matchup there. FBU asking for thoughts on Amari Cooper.
I like Cooper. I like his matchup this week against the Raiders. I think last week we finally saw it, right? They started to click a little bit with Cooper, and he had a really good week. I think we're going to see a little bit more of the same, right? Like Cooper has been extremely consistent. And while him and Deshaun haven't always been on the same page, typically when you kind of have that big breakout week, that chemistry builds naturally off of that. So I think Amari is in for another very solid week against the Raiders.
Very cool. Any other thoughts on that one? All righty. And X Busy over on YouTube saying thanks for the thoughts there. All righty. Hey guys, if you have any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, throw them in the chat. Let's go ahead and chat them out and talk about those, and we'll keep rocking and rolling there. If unless there's any objections, we'll kind of rock and roll through the Pine and Shine really quick, and just kind of go through that one there. Any wow.
No thoughts. No
thoughts. No notes.
That was exemplified there with no thoughts as I tried to speak no thoughts. All right. Anyway, so Alex had another good week, still maintaining his lead in the Pine and Shine. I managed to put up some positive points for once and got almost back to out of the negatives. And Kevin had a pretty good week, had the best week of the three of us in his Pines and Shines, and got himself out of the negatives there. So he's now moved into second place and coming for Alex on this one. So that's kind of the Pine and Shine recap there. All right, let's go ahead and hit up the Thursday night game here, the Thursday night matchup, and then we'll come back to the questions and comments here. All righty, so Thursday night we've got Dallas, we've got the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys favored by 4.5. The over/under on this one 44.5. Thoughts on this matchup?
I'm gonna take Dallas to. I'm going to take Dallas to cover this one. I do think that they're able to pull away here a little bit. I'm going to take the under. Again, it's a Thursday night game. I'm not completely convinced that the Giants are going to be putting up a ton of offensive points. And maybe Dallas doesn't either, right? They're going to be trying to work on their run game a little bit too, after catching so much flack for that here the last couple of weeks. So if Dallas gets up early, there's a good chance they're trying to grind it out. They lean on their run game and a lot of, run pass type stuff coming out of Big D instead of the play action pass draw play.
Yeah, I'll take Dallas as well. Minus the 4.5. I feel like they are due a get right game here. I'll take the over though because I like rooting for points. I think Dallas just lays it on New York in this one. And then I found Dak Prescott over under passing yards of 261.5. He is averaging 283.7. So give me the over, which I think you can get at minus 114. So there you go.
All right, I like it. One of the props that I really liked in this one, right? We talked about Devin Singletary earlier in the show and what that might look like. I do think that Dallas, kind of gets out on this one a little bit early, and the run game gets abandoned a little bit. So I'm going to take Devin Singletary under 61.5 rushing yards.
Very good. Let's see. I'm going to take Zeke over 37.5 total yards. So rushing and receiving.
I like it. Any other thoughts on the Thursday night game?
They've been decent so far. They've been decent games, entertaining games, I guess, right? And there's only been 2 of them, but you count week 1, but they've been decent. I hope that stays.
Yeah, so far,
usually these Thursday games have been just absolute stinkers.
Yeah, those short weeks in the past, but I like it. All right, let's go ahead and hit up another some more questions here. Millie Mills over on YouTube asking thoughts on Ramondre Stevenson rest of season.
I think he had a bad week, right? They don't have anywhere else to turn. So he's going to be seeing volume. Yes, it was a bad week against Buffalo, and there was or excuse me, not Buffalo, against the Jets. But there's going to be some opportunity there. So I think you're okay. I think you need to realize, he's a running back two, sometimes a flex type play, and that's just is what it is. Like he's just not going to be able to get you all the way up to like top 5 running back type production, but that's not what you necessarily drafted him for. You just need some consistency, and I think you'll find that.
Yeah. Alex, any thoughts on Ramondre rest of the season?
No, I think once this Patriots offense finds its identity, I think it bodes well for him. You get Drake May in there, you get him comfortable. I think while the transition is happening with Drake May, Ramondre gets a little bit more run. At least he should. And it's going to be tough for that offense, but I think if they're smart, they play the long con here, and Ramondre is still able to get his while they bring along the quarterback and recognize that they're not a Super Bowl contender this year, but you certainly can be next year if you allow your quarterback to develop.
Fair enough. On Ramondre, what I do think that you're looking at a top 24 back at the end of the season here, right? So you're going to have some up games, you're going to have some down games, but I think that he's going to be a pretty consistent RB2 or flex play for you throughout the season, going forward. And quite frankly, with where you were able to draft him at in just about every league, that's what you were drafting him for, was as an RB2. If you went kind of the 0 RB approach, or you were drafting him to be a flex play type of deal. And I think that's exactly what it'll get you on this one. One bad week does not a season make. And I think that's really all that we kind of saw come to play here with this last one. I do think that picks up and turns around, and that we are going to see a much different, much different approach, right? Like if you look at it where he is currently on the season, he's ranked RB 20 and a half point PPR. And I think his finish is probably somewhere in that RB 20 to 24 range. So I think you get a whole lot of what you've gotten kind of continuing through as the average. So any other thoughts on this one? All right. FBO over on YouTube asking, should you drop Zeke for QB Richardson and stash him?
I'm shocked Richardson is out there. Yes, Richardson has top 3 upside with his rushing ability. So, yes, you have to trust Indianapolis will do that. So, if you don't need Zeke, I would absolutely drop Zeke and stash Richardson.
Yeah,
cosign.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of floor, I think, more so from Richardson so far this season than ceiling, and I think that ceiling is coming. Adrian over on YouTube, what's up, y'all? Mind if y'all thoughts on my trade? Did they win or did they lose? Did they mess up their future looking there? Oh, and for Adrian's, it's an 8-person PPR. There's some stacked teams, but they have Achane, Jamar, Kyron, and Mason. They have CD, lost Cup to injury, possibly, much longer part of the season. Injury is up in the air. Traded Jamar and Shaheed for Jamar. Are they messing up the running back depth, having Mason scares because of McCaffrey, but it's starting to look like he might be gone for a while. Do I trade Mason or keep him? His upside is crazy.
I think it depends on what you're getting for Mason. I mean, Jameer and Shaheed for Jamar. I think that makes sense. That tracks about right. So I don't hate that trade necessarily, but with making that trade, I'm absolutely keeping Mason. This McCaffrey injury is a real deal. Like he's flying over to Germany to have someone overseas look at it. Like this needs to be really worrying McCaffrey owners who are hoping that he was going to be back by week 6 or 7. Like he's not. So the jury with Jordan Mason is if McCaffrey's able to come back, what does that really look like? And yes, you're going to lose some share out of Mason, but right now, having that backfield all to yourself is gold. even if he's not scoring touchdowns, right? We just need him a little bit more involved in the passing game. But realistically, with all the injuries they have in San Francisco, I'm keeping Jordan Mason unless I am offered a, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, something like that straight up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jordan Mason's top 12 back without McCaffrey. You get McCaffrey back, right? Then that elevates and goes up from there. So, but Kevin's been on this train for a while, saying that even if McCaffrey comes back, Mason will still likely have some standalone value throughout the season. So I think there is something to that as well. But any other thoughts on this one? Kenny over on YouTube saying they just traded McLaurin, Monty, and Likely for Hill and Jacobs. Did I win the trade in a full point PPR?
Trade McLaurin and Likely. I'm assuming that's Tyreek.
I would assume that as well.
From the upside standpoint, I think you did.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
that one's tough, man. It is tough. So realistically, Isaiah Likely had the one good week. Him and Andrews were both really quiet in this game against Dallas. I expect them to probably get a little bit more involved this week against Buffalo. I feel like Baltimore's kind of been hiding Mark Andrews here a little bit and kind of rocking the baby to sleep here, if you understand that analogy. But I don't mind that, right? I mean, Likely is a bottom end, bottom end tight end one at best as far as consistency rankings go, right? You got to take that week one with a bit of a grain of salt. It's an anomaly at this point through 3 weeks, where Jacobs is on the field a lot for Green Bay. And then the upside of Tyreek. Like, I'm okay with this. I really am.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what the what kind of rest of the season looks like for McLaurin after this outing last night, and some of the coaches saying that they need to get him more involved. But I do lean on the Hill and Jacob side as well. Any thoughts on that one, Alex? Trone Force over on YouTube saying that Jaden Daniels will be a league winner. Maybe. The jury's still out on that one, right? Like very early in the season, we'll see how teams start adapting to this Commanders offense, and as the film starts, getting out there a little bit more, and the book starts getting written a little bit more. But very well could be looking at Rookie of the Year. Any other thoughts on this one?
Do I like him as Rookie of the Year more than the other quarterbacks?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I do.
Right. And I don't know that we're going to see a wide receiver or anybody like that step up and win that quarterback award. All righty. Chandler over on YouTube. Start Mostert or Ford?
Ford.
Yeah, I would say Ford too, just because Mostert's dealing with that nagging injury.
Yeah, I want to see.
So will he or
I'm
won't
playing
he?
this one cautious. Yeah, I get it. The Dolphins need more weapons on the field to take the pressure off the quarterback, but there's a reason that he's sat out the last couple of weeks and that they're playing this safe. So there's something that we don't know. Is my take on that, with it just being labeled a chest injury. So I want to see him back before I'm playing him. So I'm going to go with Ford and had to just kind of deal with the consistency of him being a low end RB2 flex play type option for one more week, and then maybe pivot off of that.
All right. I like it. Busy over on YouTube. Who's better rest of the season, Diggs or Adams? I think I'd rather have Devontae, to be honest.
I think I would too, just because I think there's one less mouth to feed that I can think of.
Diggs, give me the quarterback who knows how to distribute.
Fair enough. So split decision on that one.
I like the gunslinger though.
Diggs down weeks are going to be more useful than Adams down weeks. Now, the thing with Adams is, does he get does he get really frustrated and start demanding a trade midseason? And if he does, do the Raiders acquiesce to his request? That's a lot of ifs. So obviously that could potentially change if Davante Adams' home changes. But right now, it doesn't really matter. They're not. I really thought that Minshew would do a better job kind of focusing in on Davante Adams, and just hasn't quite gotten there yet. He's definitely been more comfortable with Brock Bowers. So if you believe that either Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew is going to figure it out and realize that Adams needs to be getting 10 targets a game, quality targets a game, not just
There you go.
3 feet over his head or 2 feet in the dirt in front of him, but quality targets a game. If you believe he's going to start seeing that, then yeah, the volume speaks more than, the total offensive firepower that Houston has. But Diggs has been extremely relevant. Like I've been a little surprised with how much Diggs has been used here to start. But I don't see any real reason with that stopping, right? Because you can't just pick on Diggs to stop, because then Nico and Tank can kind of get a hold of you here a little bit. So it's a tough one. I'm going to lean Diggs because I like the quarterback situation more, but I understand the argument if you feel like Adams is just going to be due and he's going to kind of catch back up to what his career stats are, then so be it. I'm not going to pick a fight over it.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on that one? All right. So Millie Mills over on YouTube saying that they're enjoying tuning in the last couple of times. Tuned in here. Y'all kept me from panicking on a player. Thanks, guys. That's what we're here for, is to help with them fantasy questions. So appreciate the kind words. Baseball Beast over on Twitch asking Walker and St. Brown for Brees and Debo. That's a fun one.
That is a fun one because you're dealing with hurt running back and elite wide receiver for elite running back and hurt wide receiver.
Yes. So some of that does come down to the roster construct, right? Like who you've got as the running backs that can kind of shoulder the load, and wide receivers and all that. But off of the cuff, I think I'd rather have the Walker and St. Brown side of this one.
Really? See, I think I would rather have the Brees Hall, Debo Samuel side.
I'm going to side with Alex on this one. I'd rather have Brees and Debo.
It just, to me, is Brees Hall is head and shoulders above Kenneth Walker, who, by the way, Zach Charbonnet has proven that he is a more than capable fill-in, right? So who's to say that Kenneth Walker regains that backfield when he comes back healthy?
And that is part of it. I am not convinced that Walker is going to have the dominant share of that backfield when he comes back. He has a little bit more top-end speed, right? So he's a little bit more dynamic if he can break away. But Zach Charbonnet hasn't done anything to give up this starting role the last couple of weeks. They have asked a lot of this kid, and he has stepped up every single time. Couple touchdowns while Kenneth Walker's been down. And we'll see how the Lions kind of update things with the potential. Well, it's not potential. It's the low ankle sprain of Sam Laporta. But St. Brown has not been as efficient as we've seen him the last couple seasons. So the Lions need to do some different things there. Brees is still clearly the number one there. I know that Allen's seeing some touches there. You have to be able to spell the guy, right? You have to be able to spell Brees Hall and to keep him healthy for the whole season. So it's smart football what they're doing. And Debo, once he comes back, I still think that he will be in a better position coming back to help out that Niners offense, and will probably take over the number one spot from Ayuk is my opinion for this season, because it always seems to flip-flop back and forth.
Fair enough. You guys talked me into it. I'll jump on the bandwagon now. So, all right. Trone Force over on YouTube saying they're hit with injuries with Tyreek, Tua injured, Kupp injured. Other wide receivers are JSN, McLaurin, Demarcus Robinson. Would you consider trading one of them?
Yeah, try and trade Tyreek.
Yeah, see what you can get.
Or Cooper. I mean, I think you're going to get more for Tyreek, right? He's a little bit more
Healthy.
valuable.
He's also healthy.
So, I mean, see what you can get there. See if someone's willing to pay the premium for it. It's always difficult to trade wide receiver for wide receiver. So that part's always interesting, and then finding that partner who's willing to just swap same position type players. But if you're able to package it or get a package type thing, like, I mean, if you can give up Tyreek and get Chris Godwin and Brian Robinson Jr., maybe you need a running back, right? Like, I think something like that is at least entertainable for a Tyreek. But you're not going to get a Tyreek for Justin Jefferson or St. Brown straight up. Maybe if you have faith in Garrett Wilson that him and Rodgers are getting on the same page, maybe you take a gamble and see if the Garrett Wilson owner will trade you Tyreek straight up, possibly. But other than that, you need to be thinking a step down at wide receiver, but a little bit more consistent quarterback play. So that's why I'm thinking Chris Godwin.
Okay, I like it. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I do think it's not where you wanted to be week 3, considering trading Tyreek, who was probably your first wide receiver taken, and you were picking towards the top half of your draft. So, but don't let what was reality 3 weeks ago be influence reality 4 weeks in.
All righty. Steven over on YouTube looking to stream a defense without dropping the Raiders. Would you drop McConkey, Chase Brown, Gus Edwards, Demarcus Robinson, or Dwaddle?
Why don't you want to drop the Raiders? I guess what defenses are out there? Like, let's see how important this is.
Right, fair enough.
I would consider dropping any one of these guys for the right situation. But let's, like, if you can hit us up with 2, 3, or 4 of the defenses that are on your waiver wire, let's see if we can help you out here a little bit.
Oh, and he actually said this. Sorry, without dropping the Ravens.
Okay,
that makes a lot more sense.
But get rid of the Ravens. The Ravens have been god awful.
Rest of season.
Stop it.
Rest of season.
Go look at the stats.
Who's 1 and 2 in all their leagues? Raise their hand.
That's fair, but the Ravens defense have given up the most passing yards per game. They've given up the
right, but giving up passing yards equals opportunities for turnovers because they're winning games. So the Chiefs game, shootout, right? It was back and forth, gave up the passing yards to Mahomes. The Raiders game, they gave it up in the fourth quarter. They were up 10 points in the fourth quarter and they gave it up. They should have found a way to do it, but they had that game. And then this past week against the Cowboys, again, they gave up all those yards in the fourth. They're winning games in the first half with their defense. Just need them to finish. These are small tweaks. These are small tweaks. I'm all about keeping the Ravens if you want to.
Right, and the strength of schedule, rest of season, it looks really good on this one. Right, like we have yet to see them get into division play, which a lot of these offenses in this division have very much stumbled kind of down the stretch. But not only that, the Ravens are turning the ball over. They've averaged at least 1 turnover a game here, and to that point, right? A couple of tweaks here and there, and yeah, they're not far off from being the bad defense and an underperforming defense to turning that around. So I would not be dropping the Ravens either. But Steven, let us know what the other options are there as far as what the defenses that you'd be looking at potentially trying to pick up with dropping McConkey, Brown, Edwards, Robinson, or Dwaddle. And while we're waiting for that to come in, Adrian over on YouTube, should I pick up Puka or Pacheco? Only 4 bench spots, and the IR is used on Brooks. I would drop Brooks and pick up either one of those guys.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I would rather have both of them over Brooks.
Right. And
Brooks
there's
is not going to be your savior. I don't see it. I
No.
don't care who's playing quarterback for him. Brooks is not going to be the savior there.
And at that point, I'd probably lean the Puka route over Pacheco, just from the standpoint we may see Puka hit back here in about week 5. Pacheco, we may not see back until about week 9. So there's some of that into play as well. All righty. Over on YouTube. Oh, yeah. Walker and St. Brown for Brees and Debo.
I wonder if this is the same person.
Very
Just
well
on a
could be.
different account.
Very well could be. So,
Brees.
yep, we all
Debo.
went with the Debo and Brees side. Alrighty, so Jelly of the Month. Welcome back in, Jelly of the Month. Need a defense, special teams like any of Las Vegas, Chicago, Minnesota, or Miami. Man, it's tough when Minnesota has been the number 1 ranked defense through 3 weeks, and seeing them out there to not take a shot there, at least a little bit. But who do you like this week?
This week, that's not bad. Again, right. Minnesota, we talked about it earlier. Minnesota and Green Bay play each other, so Minnesota's on the road. The nice thing is that it's September at Lambeau and not November at Lambeau.
Right.
And it's probably not Jordan Love. I guess of those options, I'd take Minnesota.
I think I'd lean Minnesota, and then I'd go Chicago, and then I'd go Las Vegas.
Okay. Yeah, I think Minnesota's my lean there as well. I don't mind the Miami call, just from the standpoint that Miami's taken on Tennessee, and 1, Tennessee has had a hard time putting points on the board, and 2, there's a really good chance that Will Levis turns the ball over at least once in this game, if not more. So that's kind of how I would roll. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah.
All righty. Jelly of the Month saying PPR, no AJ Brown and Waddle. Don't know the QB. Pick up and play Michael Wilson versus Washington. It'd have to drop DeMarcus Robinson in PPR. Would you rather go Michael Wilson or DeMarcus Robinson this week?
I'd rather go DeMarcus Robinson.
Any other thoughts on that one?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm kind of right there with you. I don't feel great about either one, but I would lean the DeMarcus Robinson. Jason over on YouTube, would you trade McBride and Sutton for Stevenson and Pittman? Backup tight end is Jake Ferguson. I mean, I guess that really kind of depends on if you're really hurting at running back, or if Stevenson is that much of an upgrade from your RB2 or flex.
It's hard to get away from McBride.
Pittman's struggling, man. Him and Richardson have not been on the same page. Pittman kind of makes his hay in intermediate routes. Richardson does not throw the intermediate route well. He is a
That's being kind about it.
Right? Richardson at the moment is a checkoff / deep ball thrower. This intermediate route that Pittman kind of makes his living on is not ideal for where Richardson's at in his progression currently. So Pittman scares me. Sutton, I think we're going to continue to see Sutton use. I think unless you are dying at running back, I don't think I'd do this. And if you are dying at running back, I think you could get Ferguson for Stevenson straight up, and then you could figure out what else to do about a backup tight end in case McBride's out with the concussion this week.
Hey, let's play a fun game here real quick.
All right, let's play a game.
Let's play a fun game. All right. Of these 3, who do you think has the most targets on the Colts? Pittman, Pierce, or A.D. Mitchell? Who has
Pittman,
the most targets?
or it's Pierce.
It is, in fact, Pittman. He has 20 targets. He has 88 yards on 20 targets, 11 catches. How crazy is that? Alec Pierce, 12 targets. He's got 9 catches, 225 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
So, like, while you're saying, yeah, like, I don't know. Again, I don't know the quality of those targets. It's just what the targets is, right? But, like, holy cow.
It goes back to Kevin's take on the Devontae Adams targets deal, where it's 3 feet over the head, 2 feet in the dirt.
In the vicinity, so as to avoid intentional grounding. Like, man, that's crazy. That is insane. Michael Pittman has basically an entire game's worth of targets. More than the next guy is just barely ahead of the 4th place guy, is just barely ahead of Jonathan Taylor's receiving yards.
Right. So, but again, that goes right back to the check down or throw it 50 yards down the field.
That's insane.
The 10 to 15 yard route is a very difficult one apparently to throw in the NFL. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah.
All right. Mr. Wumbo over on YouTube. Hey, I'm 1-2 and 3-0, and they're proud of that one win with that little emoji face there. So
we're right there, Mr. Wumbo.
I think he was. I think
slow
he's trying
starts, right? Slow starts.
I think he was trying to consolidate with your starts there for sure. FBU saying the Steelers defense has been balling.
Yeah,
and gives us an emoji face. I like all these emojis that are coming through. Those are always interesting.
That's fun.
Yeah. Adrian was saying, okay, thank you for the question back earlier on that Puka and Pacheco IR with Brooks question. Steven, let us know about that defense and thinking about streaming the defense of the Texans or the Titans week 4. So going back, and would you drop McConkey, Chase Brown, Gus Edwards, Demarcus Robinson, or Dwaddle for the Titans or Texans defense?
I think there's a case to be made for either. Jacksonville, while last week notwithstanding, I do think last week was a bit of an anomaly for that offense. Also hasn't scored a ton of points, right? In their first 3 games, they haven't scored a ton. So I don't mind the Houston play at home. Tennessee going up against who knows what at quarterback for Miami. I do still think that Miami finds a way to like move the football. It may not be through the air, but I do think that they get creative enough that they can move the football. And let's be real. If it is Tyler Huntley, like that guy can play. Like we've seen him. He's been fine as like a one-off. I don't think he's like a season-long answer. He's certainly not a franchise savior, but like as a couple week fill-in, like he can play. And so, new wrinkles always give defenses fits, right? Because they just don't know what to expect. I think sometimes D coordinators have kind of paralysis by analysis, right? Where they just like overthink it and then don't have a solid game plan for what they might see. They prepare for all eventualities and don't prepare for any realities. So that could play in Miami's favor. I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that I think I like Houston better there.
Yeah, I have the short answer. I don't mind dropping Chase Brown for either one of those defenses to play this week. Personally, I'd probably lean to the Titans over the Texans as far as a stream goes, but that would be the down and dirty, short, quick answer. Thoughts on?
I'd rather drop Gus Edwards, but
okay.
Same general principle. I'm good with either. I think you could make a good argument. Realistically, they're about a half point different as far as what kind of experts are thinking those defenses do here this week. So I think you could kind of go either way. I'm I would probably lean the Texans at home just because, anytime the noise can assist, good things are more likely to happen.
All right, I like it. Steve, over on YouTube, do you guys think Roschon Johnson is worth it for a third waiver priority? I wouldn't use it myself.
No.
Okay. Millie Mills saying that they are really hoping that Love plays this week because is hurting them, and he can't wait to bench them.
It is rough. I mean, Richardson right now is not even at 50%, and it is just brutal. He's doubled his interceptions over his touchdowns. He's been sacked 4 times for 30 yards lost. Like that. He's fortunate that he can run, because, man, can he not throw it? Like, it's just not working out through the air for him so far.
Do y'all remember when he came out of the offseason saying it was easier to play quarterback in the NFL than college? I'm waiting for.
How would he know? He barely played quarterback in college too. Like, I don't understand where this guy thinks that he is a savant when it comes to playing the position. He's played 17 games since high school. Like, what are we? What is he talking about?
He went to the Kyler Murray School of Madden.
Oh, alrighty. Steven, over on YouTube, with Kyle Pitts as your tight end, would you drop a stash or bench player for Mike Gesicki or Cole Kmet?
I like Gesicki.
It's intriguing. Who are we thinking about dropping or benching? Right. Or what bench player are we thinking about possibly getting rid of? I don't mind. I don't mind
the stash. So,
Steven,
let us know who you're planning on dropping for that.
Also, I gotta check bye weeks. What's Gesicki's bye week? Is it different than the Falcons? I guess is the question. And I find that quickly.
To be honest with you, it wouldn't much matter for me because at that point I'd be starting to almost do streaming tight end. Yeah. I'm doing streaming tight end type of deal at that point, but I do get the point. Looks like the bye is. I'm not seeing when the Falcons have their bye.
They don't have one. They got screwed this year by Roger Goodell. They said
no bye week for the
Falcons. Week 12 would be the Falcons bye week. And let's see here. Week 12 would be the.
Of course it is, because everybody and their brother has a week 12 bye week this year.
But Cole Kmet does not have a week 12 bye. He has a week 7 bye. So
there you go.
There you go. But at that point, it really depends. To kind of go back to the question, it really depends on who you're thinking about dropping. To pick up either one of those guys. So let us know who that would be. Millie Mills saying that they wonder what Pittman is saying to Richardson in the locker room. I don't know. That'd be it's always interesting conversations for sure.
Hey, a little closer, please.
Target, hit target.
Would you mind being just a touch closer to me? Thank you.
This one was good. Mr. Wumbo saying maybe Pittman should just start running the routes incorrectly, and those balls in the dirt and over his head might be right in the numbers.
It's possible.
It is possible. Alrighty, White Tiger over on YouTube. I'm pretty sure first time we've seen White Tiger in the chat. Welcome in. Cowboys or Giants? And yeah.
Sorry, White Tiger, you missed our Thursday night breakdown earlier. I think we all took the Cowboys.
We did.
Plus the 4.5. Excuse me, minus the 4.5. Ooh, plus if you can find Dallas plus somewhere, go get it.
I'm sure you could buy it down.
Dallas. We have Dallas minus the 4.5. Kevin and Derek both took the under at 44.5, and I took the over at 44.5.
So, and we got a thumbs up for that one. So,
thanks for being here. Hit the subscribe button while you're here.
Yeah, appreciate that. The Emily Mills saying that they got the bye week 12.
Emily Mills, what team are you playing for?
So he's helping us out there on the in the chat.
Appreciate
So.
it. Millie Mills, what team do you play for?
Alrighty, and then Millie Mills saying, how do y'all feel about what King Henry did on Sunday, and how do y'all feel about him this week?
It's going to be. I like Henry. I've liked him throughout the offseason. I'm not backing off of it. So he showed that he absolutely still has it against the Cowboys. Like the Ravens look good when they're giving him the ball that much. You know, I don't expect him to have quite the volume. I think they're going to have to air it out a little bit more against Buffalo, but I mean, anything inside the 5, and I think Derrick Henry's going to get first crack. They really don't want Lamar taking those balls inside the 5. So if they're down in the red zone, it's Henry's touchdown to lose.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Buffalo currently giving up the 8th most points to opposing fantasy running back. So I think that we are full send on Derrick Henry again this week, and wouldn't surprise me to see 20 touches and probably somewhere around triple digits and fall into the end zone again this week. So I think he's in store for a very good week.
Dude, the Ravens ran the ball 45 times against Dallas.
Yep, that sounds like a Ravens offense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, we can run through some pine and shines real quick and just let folks know what we're thinking here. Unless some other folks have some thoughts in the chat, we can hit those up. But I think we are coming down to it. How do we feel about just hitting up? Kind of call your shot on one your best pine, your best shine, and we'll start wrapping up.
Yeah, I'll start if that's cool. I'll go my best pine. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson this week. Jets against the Broncos. Feel like Pat Surtain will have something to say. So he's projected to finish wide receiver 10 with 13 points and half-point PPR. And then my best shine, I'm going to go another wide receiver. I'll go Khalil Shakir, who's projected wide receiver 36 with 9 points. He is going up against the Ravens, who are not bueno, the pass defense.
All righty. Kevin, how about your best pine, your best shine?
My pine this week is going to be Justin Jefferson. As much as that pains me because I have him in the home league, Jair Alexander does give him fits. And generally, it's about 50-50, to be honest, right? Jefferson normally kind of gets one over on the Packers. Then the Packers get one over on Jefferson. So I'm doing this for selfish reasons because the last 2 years – the Vikings have played the Packers in the fantasy playoffs, and I've had Jefferson put up a dud in my semifinals and last year my finals matchup, and it cost me both of them. So I'm going to say this is the down week against the Packers, and then they play him later in the season. Jefferson will go ham.
All right, I like it. As far as I go, I've got Jamar Chase as the pine this week. We certainly saw kind of the resurgence here this last night, but where he finished wide receiver 2, I think we see a little bit of a fall off here going into Carolina. Just don't really see this one playing out here as all that well. As far as the shine, I'm going to take his counterpart at this point on that offensive unit, Andre Iosivas, who is currently ranked wide receiver 60 with a 6.8. Iosivas has seen the end zone just about every week this year, and I think that we see another touchdown come that way. So I think we can see him easily outperform that wide receiver 60 on the week. Any other thoughts on this one?
Yes, my shine is going to be Mike Williams. I'm going the Garrett Wilson counterpart. Wide receiver 61, projected total of about 6.5 points. So I think Mike Williams, he got his snap share has gone up each week as he's coming back from this injury. I think he and Aaron Rodgers do have a little bit of an instant connection there. Rodgers likes his big frame. So if Garrett Wilson is blanketed by Surtain, I think Mike Williams has a chance to have a really good week for the Jets.
I like it. Any other thoughts on this one? Alrighty. And Millie Mills answering Alex's question from earlier, saying that he plays for Atlanta as the 54th man.
All right, Millie Mills, I'll buy your jersey.
Alrighty. And then Adian over on YouTube saying, would you guys trade Ayuk, Mason, and Gibbs for Justin Jefferson and a couple of bench players? They have Gibbs, Barkley, Kyron, Mason, and Ramondre Stevenson. Only wide receiver is Ayuk and Devonta Smith.
No, I don't think I would. I don't think it's a little bit too much.
Right. And especially with what Devonta Smith is kind of going through there as well, right? Like if that's all you've got is wide receiver Ayuk and Devonta Smith, there's a good chance that you're still having to hunt through the waiver wire to find a starting wide receiver this week.
Yeah. With that being the case, I'd look at flipping Ramondre or Mason, right? Like I get it, but with Barkley, Gibbs, and Kyron, like you can run those out at your two running backs in your flex spot and feel pretty good. So I mean, I'd look at flipping Ramondre or Mason for wide receiver talent at that point.
Right. So, like it. Any other thoughts on this trade question?
Nah.
All righty. And Mr. Wumbo saying that referring back to Millie Mills being the 54th member of the Falcons because they're pretty sure that that they would have thought about picking them up off the waiver wire. So I like it.
Listen, Carolina would have signed you by now.
You may not be wrong.
Quarterback, yeah.
Millie Mills saying that he's a Hall of Fame water boy in the making. So
there you go.
Absolutely, the hydration specialist. I like it. White Tiger over on YouTube. Should I hang on to T. Higgins? He's more of my bench player, or a flex. His injury scares me.
I'd hang on to him for sure.
Yeah. If you got the bench spot for him, like if it's not hindering your starting lineup, hang on to him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be moving off of that one for sure. So, alrighty.
Hey, let's hit. Did we hit Aiden's follow up there about who we can get for Mason?
Oh no, we missed that one. Who can I get from Mason nowadays? I'm not going if I'm not going for a high end wide receiver.
I think you could take a target at either one of the Tampa Bay wide receivers, Evans or Godwin.
That's exactly who I was leaning towards too. Evans or Godwin.
Kind of be who I would think initially. I think. Sorry, running through.
JMO?
No, it's too low.
Too low. Not enough. I'm just trying to think of dudes that are opposite of studs.
You might have a hard time getting someone to swallow it, but try like Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy that we probably don't talk enough about on this show. That dude is balling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who the other guy I'm starting in my work league is. There we go. I'm starting Rice and Evans instead of Tyreek. Oh, thank you. That made me think of it.
Jaden Reed wouldn't be a bad one either. Kind of in that, right?
Especially with Love coming back, like that may not be the worst of it.
DK wouldn't be a bad one to make a run at as well.
I like that one too. I like the DK.
I mean, if you wanted to kind of dive deeper into there, you could start looking at the Stephon Diggs and a piece back type of thing. Potentially even doing a 2-for-1 type of deal. See if you could do a Stephon Diggs and a Terry McLaurin. Like that might be a thought that you could run through there as well. Like there's some options for sure. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Alrighty. Mr. Wumbo saying that they were proud of the one win is that they've been starting people like Richardson, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, Kyle Pitts, Kirk, Kincaid, etc. Pretty sure someone hexed them and they wouldn't make it if they scored 10 or more points. So
probably. Sometimes
Yeah.
it be like that,
Well,
Mr. Wumbo. Sometimes you just get the short end of it.
Right.
some of it. But for future reference, we do a bunch of pre-draft coverage.
Yeah, we do.
Run this 52 weeks a year. So clearly you're a little frustrated with how the draft turned out, and that's okay. I understand what you were going for with the upside of Richardson and Kincaid and Kurt. I like, these are guys that I was looking at as well. So that being said, it's only 3 weeks. It is only 3 weeks. These guys don't play in the preseason. Things are still changing. There's still a ton of offensive wrinkles that need to be laid out into game plans. So we saw Christian Kirk make an appearance last night against the Bills. I think that was good for his rapport with Lawrence. So hopefully that leads to greater things. Richardson still has a mile-high upside. We saw Kincaid get in the end zone, which is a good thing. So they're inching there, right? Just because it wasn't there in weeks 1 through 3 doesn't mean it's not going to turn around here pretty quick for you, because a lot of these guys are too stinking talented to be held down all season long.
Right. And the Millie Mill saying that could get DK as well. Going back to that question from earlier. Adian over on YouTube saying the guy with Rashee Rice has him as wide receiver 1 over even Jefferson.
Like he said that, or that's just where he's slotted in his roster.
Right. Like if that's what he's saying, then he's selling that even lower on Jefferson. But yeah, let us know on that one. JJ Keats over on YouTube asking Ayuk for Monty. I'd rather have the Monty side of that one. If there's a different running back, maybe not. But yeah, but I am a big fan of Monty. So there I will admit my bias in there.
I don't hate it, only because I don't know who you're going to do better than Ayuk. Like, I don't know who else you're going to get besides Ayuk for Monty that would really flip that. So shop it around, right? I mean, look at DK, look at, again, potentially Godwin or Mike Evans. Shop around with some one for one trades and see what some guys think. Ayuk might be the best you can do, and if you're hurting at receiver, I don't hate it. Like, is it a home run smash? Yes. No, probably not. But if you need help at receiver and you have that running back depth to give up, it's not damning. And obviously you need the points somewhere. So if you feel like you're going to get them from Ayuk, go for it.
Okay. I like it. All righty, guys. So we're gonna hit up the questions in the chat, and we're gonna call it a night here. So Millie Mill saying that what really hurt them about the Anthony Richardson is that they traded for him after Love got hurt and gave up Monty, JMO, and Tajay, and think that they missed on that trade there. That one hurts. That was a fair bit to give up there, but if Richardson lives up to the hype and starts using those legs a little bit more and gets into QB3 or better type of territory, that could work out for you. Alrighty. Jelly of the month. They have Achane and Jalen Wright in one of the leagues. Would you drop Wright to grab Roshan Johnson? Not sure if Wright or Mostert handcuff in mid.
In Miami.
Oh, yes, in Miami. Half point PPR.
No, I'd rather have Wright. The upside for him is way better. The kid is electric. The kid is electric. Like, I'm not trusting anything with Chicago right now. Like, I just don't love it. I don't love the way they're playing offense. I don't love the way that they're using DeAndre Swift. I don't like the Keenan Allen injury. Like, I just, there's so much about Chicago that I just don't want a piece of. I'd rather gamble on the Miami running game.
I'll co-sign to that. Yeah.
Fair enough. White Tiger asking T. Higgins for Terry McLaurin, a decent trade.
That's not terrible. I mean, I think Higgins' upside is ultimately higher, But if
God, Cincinnati looks so bad.
if we can get Jaden Daniels to realize that Terry McLaurin is on the field for like 70% of the snaps, like Terry McLaurin would be a whole lot better. The problem with McLaurin is he is consistently a mid wide receiver 2.
Mm-hmm.
Higgins has high end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 upside.
Right.
Like, so it's how you want to trade off. And again, Higgins is in a contract year. Like, he's coming back, right? His first game back. Okay, let's not read too much into that. But it's his first game back, and he's in a contract. Like, Higgins does want to ball out so he can get paid, which I like having those guys on my roster.
Yeah, I would agree. Jacob over on YouTube, trade Garrett and Zaire for Olave and JK.
Zamir. Garrett and Zamir.
Yeah, I'd rather have the man. That's tough.
Give me the best player in that deal, and that's Garrett Wilson by a hair. Like, this isn't by a whole lot. And I understand if you're frustrated with Zamir and everything else and you want some more consistency, but there's no guarantee that what J.K. Dobbins has done is going to be sustainable at all for a guy coming off an Achilles injury.
Right.
Or is this his knee? Or his other knee?
Which one was it?
Or his first knee again. Yeah, like too many injuries for JK. So yeah, I think I'd keep a hold of Garrett and Zamir and try and find something maybe a little bit more appetizing for you.
And he did come down to earth, right? He did only put up, and granted it was Pittsburgh's defense, but he only had 44 yards, right? He only ran the ball 14 times. It wasn't the 130-yard performance that we saw week 1 and week 2. Like, yeah.
Right. So, Dolt Josiah over on YouTube saying week 4 start Garrett Wilson, Olave, or Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver 2 in a full point PPR.
I don't like Garrett Wilson's matchup.
I like Olave this week.
I think Olave is probably where I'm leaning to.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. White Tiger saying that they are not a fan of a wide receiver with hamstring issues. I get it.
Yeah.
It's one of those two that, guys that are coming back off soft tissue injuries, give it realistically a week or two, seeing them back on the field before kind of, settling into that. So I do think that there is a little bit of that, let's see what it looks like after this week, with T Higgins before we hit that panic button for sure. So, and then Millie Mill saying that Zamir runs awfully hard and just don't see why they're having difficulties there.
Because he's running right into the ass guard.
It doesn't matter if you run hard right into the backside of your O-line.
Right. Mark Sanchez made a whole replay career about that.
He really did.
All right. Mark Folkman over on YouTube saying, thinking about benching Richardson this week. Would you rather go Sam Darnold or Justin Fields?
I'd go Darnold with the way he's playing.
Yeah. Play the hot hand. All righty. And this one's going to be the last question of the night before we hit up the final thoughts and run through the closing up shop here. Dolt Josiah saying that Chris Olave predict eight who dat. All right. So
appreciate maybe that's what it is.
Hey, there we go.
Anyways, I'm going Sam Darnold anyways, because the Colts are hosting the Steelers. Steelers defense is nasty right now. So give me Sam Darnold over Richardson. Sorry, Dolt. Give me Sam Darnold over Richardson this week.
Yeah, I think I'm right there too. All righty, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for the questions and the comments coming in here. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
No, thanks for the
appreciate everybody stopping by. Yeah, that was great.
All right, awesome. So yeah, make sure that you're able to find us on all of the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places there at Good Old Boys FF. Do us a favor, head over to YouTube, click that like and subscribe button. help out this independent podcast, and I can't leave a person hanging. So this is the last one. I can't leave Cooper over on YouTube hanging. Would you boys trade Hubbard for Tank Dell and White?
Yes.
If you can get Tank Dell and White for Chuba Hubbard, smash yes, move on.
And he is talking Zamir. I'm sure he's not talking Rashad, but still,
Fair enough.
I would do that.
Fair enough. They say that he got to do it at the buzzer beater. Opinions. No, he did say
he
it
is
is
talking
Rashad.
about Rashad. Yeah, absolutely.
Smash yes, move on.
Then yes, Bucky's going to keep eating into that workload here a little bit, but long term, it's going to be a better play for you.
Right. All right. Assassin TV saying that the opinions on Kelsey this week at tight end. Chargers are 19th against the tight end.
Meh.
Yeah.
It's been meh all year. These teams are not letting.
He's my tight end, and he's my tight end pine this week. So they have kind of the consensus ranking is him at tight end 4 this week with just over 9 points scored. I am fading that. I don't think he finishes at tight end 4 or has 9 points.
Teams are making sure that Travis Kelce does not beat them this year.
Yeah, and Rashee Rice is really filling in for what Kelsey was doing in that offense, right? Like he's getting a lot of those targets that were going there, and so I think we've just kind of seen that shift happen. Do you like what you saw in the second half? It was there, right? Like it was there. Alrighty, that's gonna do it for all the questions, comments. Are there any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Like, subscribe. We'll see you on Friday.
All right, like it. Here for the good old boys. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.